If you're looking to understand the runes in a more spiritual or wisdom tradition, rather than necessarily understanding the historical wisdom of them, which, if I'm honest, a lot of that has been lost to time, then a really great way is to pick up your rune deck or set, shuffle or pick, and if you don't have a rune set, you know what? You can get a piece of paper, write the runes down, cut them up, and do it that way. The magic isn't in the rune set, it's in the connection you make with the runes. And pick a rune that is impactful and helpful for you for today or this week or this month. I've actually been doing this on a monthly basis since before lockdown. What I've actually done is I've gone through a cycle of doing a rune a month and making sure then that I cover all the runes. So what you could do is when you've picked your rune, you could put that one aside so that you make sure that when you pick a rune, you will go through all the runes. And if you're looking to learn the runes, that's a powerful way to do it. My updated book, you can get it from Amazon, or you can get it as a PDF direct from me from my website. I have to be honest and say the Hagl rune is the rune that I have most struggled to integrate on a personal level. Probably that's because I associate the Hagl rune with structure, and by nature I'm much more comfortable with chaos and winging it, and this is very much representing a shadow side of myself. So in my updated book, what you will find is you will find the sound of the rune in Old Norse. So in this case, Hagl. That is true for all of the runes apart from Loki. Now, this isn't because I dislike Loki. In fact, I love working with Loki even more than I do with Heimdall. But the Loki rune does have associations with illness, and in his Old Norse rune poem here we have ulcer. I think the direct translation would be canker, but I think I chose ulcer as a more modern and understood word. So here, instead of the Old Norse kaun, I have used a more modern Norwegian term, kraft, to dilute the power of the sound. So I just wouldn't suggest chanting or singing that one sound. But for all of the others, one of the first things you can do is chant, say, sing the sound. See how it feels in your body. I've included both the Old Norse rune poem. Here we have hail is the coldest of the grains. The traditional translation I have included, which is Christ formed the world in ancient times. Personally, I think that was the word Christ was put in to try and hide the rune poems from being a pagan source in Christian times. I think when we look at the shape of this rune, crystal formed the world in ancient times might be a more appropriate translation. I've tried to put in some information about the deity, because when we sink into the mythology, many people, myself included, learn best through story. So anything you can read about Heimdall is going to help you to understand this rune. I've also talked about how hail is made. There's some amazing videos on YouTube. Think about how hail is made. Caught up in a storm, the ice rising and dropping until it is too heavy and falls from the sky. There is something important and hard to put into words about Heimdall and the ending of cycles. To me, Heimdall and Loki are very similar energies. They're the ending of cycles. Heimdall is constantly watching and listening and waiting for Ragnarok. He sacrificed his ear to Mimir as well. I mean, we always think about Odin and his eye, but we need to remember that actually Heimdall also sacrificed. So understanding the myth can be really helpful. as can understanding the natural associations. So that would be looking into hail. It might be looking into this idea of grains. What does hail do to farmland? Is it good for crops? Can it be good for crops? Can it be bad for crops? Understanding the impact of hail in our natural environment. I've also included the trees for each of the runes that is from my personal tradition of Starve. And beech is fascinating. You know, the word book comes from the word beech because the bark of the beech was used as an early paper. And Heimdall is associated with tradition and organisation. There is, you know, if the natural world is your thing, really exploring the tree for each of the runes will tell you so much about the rune. I've tried to include in a small booklet as much as I can that I think will hopefully signpost you to deeper research. I don't think any one book should be the Bible of the runes. So instead of trying to include all the information, I've tried to include gateways to further information, including he was born of 9 mothers, which places his origin somewhere far older than the current divine order. I think of him as a grandfather among the gods, steadier, less impulsive, present not to dominate but to witness and guard. Of course, I have done some keywords because sometimes keywords are just really helpful. Structure, order, logic, sudden disruption, wariness, sound and listening, knowledge, storms, healing after trauma, the watchman. And I've included my own 2-line stanza as well. Listen carefully to be aware, finding the central point. One of the most beautiful associations, even though on a personal level, I'm more comfortable with Loki than I am with Heimdall. Of my 4 children, 2 of them are very focused on music. Both of them actually perform in bands. I believe, having sat with my children and really sat with their psychology, they both have Heimdall as a kind of a core energy in their soul. And of course, Heimdall is connected with sound. So if you are a musician, if you work with sound, then exploring the Hagl rune and Heimdall might be really interesting for you. So I'd like to sort of share more of these little rune videos if you like. What I will do now that I've kind of shared it from a more personal perspective, is I will read both pages so you've got all the information. So Hagl, Heimdall, beech. Hail is the coldest of the grains. Christ, or perhaps crystal, formed the world in ancient times. Heimdall is the Asier's watcher and guards the Bifrost bridge. He is a sky god, has enhanced hearing, and feels old to me, as if he belongs to an older time somehow. Little is known of him, though much has been lost. Heimdall is a strange mix of structure, organisation, and education. He gave birth to the classes of men, our social structure, yet he is also a god associated with sudden change and the hailstorm. Think about how hail is made, caught up in a storm, the ice rising and dropping until it is too heavy and falls from the sky. There is something important, but hard to put into words, about Heimdall and the ending of cycles. After all, he's always on guard for Ragnarok. I'm not so sure he's hoping to avoid Ragnarok. As an old and wise god, he will know it is inevitable, even needed. It feels to me he's preserving the balance until the time is right. No one who is truly wise expects the balance to stay as it is for all time. He sacrificed his ear to Mimi as well, as Odin did his eye, and so can hear even the grass growing. There is a resonance between Odin and Heimdall, both connected with wisdom and taking an interest in the affairs of mankind. Both consciously chose to sacrifice to gain something important. Yet Heimdall seems more reserved, calmer, more considered somehow. I've often found Heimdall to be associated with those who are recovering from trauma. He represents hypervigilance and the need for order. Hagl is a powerful rune to use for healing and regaining balance after trauma, allowing you to create a safe space to truly heal. He was born of 9 mothers, which places his origins somewhere far older than the current divine order. I think of him as a grandfather among the gods, steadier, less impulsive, present not to dominate but to witness and guard. Heimdall and Loki are arch rivals, and I think that rivalry reveals a lot about both of them. Both are agents of change. Both stand slightly apart from the Aesir. But where Loki is wildfire, sudden, uncontrolled, consuming, Heimdall is ice. His change is structural, measured, internal. He will blow, and my pronunciation is not good because I am an author, not a speaker, the Hagl horn at the start of Ragnarok. And he is destined to face Loki at the end, where they destroy each other, fire and ice, the endless creative cycle. Keywords: structure, order, logic, sudden disruption, wariness, sound and listening, knowledge storms, healing after trauma, the watchman. Listen carefully to be aware, finding the central